Hi, I'm Brianna Rogers, co-creator of the film opening Never-Ending Nostalgia. Our product targets the issue of domestic violence. This issue is seen in many movies such as the movie It, but it isn't often seen from the viewpoint of a child reflecting back on past memories and struggling with the trauma they've endured. By focusing on a child's experience of domestic violence and their growth from this, our product goes against the grain that most domestic violence movies follow. We chose to film in an affluent area to show the audience that domestic violence is not congruent with a person's social class, which corrects a popular belief. We highlighted the issue of domestic violence through a very real lens with the addition of a gunshot and showing the effects of violent memories on a child even 10 years after what happened. We did this to address the PTSD that goes along with living in a violent household as a child. Our product's genre is drama. We chose to use an older slow jazz song to juxtapose the violence scene and hinted towards in the film. The slower music goes along with normal conventions in the drama genre, as seen in the film Great Gatsby, when the song "Young and Beautiful" plays. Lana Del Rey's soothing voice, along with the matching melody, makes the scene of the movie seem as if it's a dream. The slow music also makes the opening seem a tad ethereal, which isn't meant to glorify the violent scene, but instead it links back to the flashback being the memories of a child once he's grown up. This is because memories always feel distant, and the soothing tempo of the song makes the violent scene not as bad. The juxtaposition with the sound and audio really made for a nice touch and made the parents' actions seem much more shocking, making the audience have more empathy for the main character. The parents are also seen fighting, but their yelling is drowned out by the music because the kid can't fully remember what words were said since the actions were more important that day. This makes the audience see the memory more like how the child is seeing his memory. Throughout the flashback, in the opening, the camera lurks around the house as if it's an unknown intruder. This puts the audience in an uncomfortable position as they have to watch a child live with parents that have such a volatile relationship. Seeing the real violence of this family that's veiled from the rest of the world creates sympathy for the main character as he struggles with having to relive this part of his life through most of his days, as suggested by the title. The filter used throughout the flashback makes the edges of the screen seem darker, which adds to the memory aspect because the vision isn't as clear as the present-day filming. The transitioning used to introduce the flashback, which is when the glare of white is shown, along with the addition of a filter, helps the audience recognize that this film is now showing something that from the main character's past. The transitions used in the flashback may have the clips fade from to black, which almost mimics a person falling asleep then waking back up, to show that the main character doesn't remember some parts of the day, either because that memory was from 7 years ago and he's forgotten some, or that the experience was so traumatic that he blocked some of it out. We would have to enter this film into a film festival in order to generate some popularity, then hopefully there it would be picked up by an independent filming company. The budget for this film would most likely be around $10 million because there is no addition of computer-generated imagery, and the area it would be shot in would be local since there is no need for anything extravagant in the film. Our product is targeted towards young adults because they can more easily connect with the main character because of his age. Domestic abuse survivors can also relate to the main character if they have lived through similar experiences as him. I did a lot with the planning process for the filming day. I created a Google Doc for scene-by-scene planning where we could add camera angles that we're going to use and how to set up the mise-en-scène. In this Google Doc, I also planned out the credits to make sure that everyone got credit for what they specifically did throughout the film process. The actors that aren't Tyler and Shelton are actually my cousins. The girl is 20, which helped with her being able to fit the role of the mom. Having to find the right actors was an essential part of the planning process because the boy had to look somewhat like Shelton, and the mother had to be older, so luckily I was able to get them into my film. Since they live in Tampa, we can only get them down for one day, which forced us to plan the day out to a T. To do this, I storyboarded as many shots as I could so that we could easily get those out of the way, and this ended up saving us a lot of time and limited our filming process to around 2 hours. In the beginning of the editing process, I had no idea how to even use iMovie, so I definitely learned a lot. During the beginning of the post-production process, we had to cut some of our clips out completely because we had around 6 minutes of footage instead of 2. This was expected because we filmed a lot. We filmed more than enough just in case some of it wasn't good and we had to cut it out. We chose the films that best flowed with each other while also telling the story of what happened that day. Once we found these clips, I shortened some of them and made some others longer so that we could fit in the credits. I also adjusted the order of some to make the story of the opening more comprehensible. I did a lot of the editing in the end. Having to mess with the volume and pitch of the song we chose while balancing the noise of the actual recordings was perhaps the most interesting and challenging part. I wanted to make the audience know that the main character remembered this point of his life vividly, but it was also memory, so he couldn't remember most of the words, only the violence behind them. This is why the door is heard slamming and yelling is slightly heard, but most other words are drowned out by the song. I also learned how to work with the camera, which is something that I haven't tried doing before. Originally, I didn't know that trying to keep a steady hand while recording was such hard work. To avoid this problem, we actually had to use rubber bands to secure the camera on top of a tripod so it didn't move when we tilted the camera or did a pan movement. I had a fun time trying to figure out different camera angles to see which fit best, and when I wasn't holding the camera, I was directing how it should be moved and in what angles. Throughout the process of editing, I've gained a lot of respect for everyone who worked behind the scenes of some of my favorite films, because adding an insane CGI makes our month-long effort seem like cakewalk. My groupmate Tyler did most of the integration of technology, while I gave ideas and suggested how we could improve the way everything looked. In order to get the tree from the production image, we had to get a PNG of a pine tree. After we found one, we imported the image to the desktop and cropped it to fit into the screen and moved it around to get to the position we liked the most. Then, since we decided to make our own production company, we added our text, then found the transition we wanted, and ended up with something that we really liked. Another major thing we did in this film was add the song "It's Been a Long, Long Time" by finding it on YouTube, then downloading it as an MP3 file. After this, we dragged it onto the screen. We also repeated this process in order to add the bird sound during the introduction of the production company. Once we had these sounds, we had to edit them. With the song, we split the clip in order to get certain parts of the song where we wanted them to be, and then deleted the rest of the song. When the song plays, we slowed down the transition to have it play slower then louder as it goes to make sure that when the song starts playing, it isn't too abrupt. I was set on having the words "It's been a long, long time" play as the title of the film is seen, and we were able to accomplish that, which ended up giving the end of the opening a nice and dramatic touch. We also raised the volume of the song and lowered the volume of the actual clips to drown out some of the words, to create a more dreamy effect since the song is so smooth and the rest of the film is meant to be a memory. The filter that we used over the memory part of the opening has darkened edges around it, which reinforces the notion that this is a memory since it's less clear than the present day clips. We simply applied this filter to all of the memory clips. The cutting of certain clips took a while because we didn't want the opening to be too choppy, but we also didn't have much time to work with since it's only supposed to be 2 minutes long. Towards the end, we had the camera zoomed into Shelton's face. Then we unzoomed to get a more full image. By having the camera first focus on Shelton's eye, this creates a more powerful effect because his eyes have tears in them so you can see his pain. When the title is shown, the image is blurred, which is another filter that we added to have the audience focus more on the title than the image. Throughout the planning, filming, and editing processes, I've gained a huge amount of respect for people who work behind the scenes because the process of creating a film takes a lot of endurance and skill.